Good evening. This is Jenna McClelland. I am so excited to share with you a new video where I got to interview Harry Guiremand from the Bloodstained Men. Harry is the spokesman and is usually the one that comes on and is in charge of all the media and has been involved with the Bloodstained Men since 2014, so about a decade. I wanted to, real quick before we get the interview started, acknowledge Harry. I don't know if I was such an honor to be in front of someone as beautiful, as genuine, and as present and as calm about a topic that is, it's hard for me. If you've seen my videos, it's hard for me to be calm about sometimes. So to have that, to be anchored and grounded to when you talk about infant male genital mutilation, it's not an easy feat. And I was unsure how the video was going to go, because if you were to look at some of the visual representations of the bloodstained men, they're in all these white suits and they have a blood stain on their pants to represent the sacrifice, essentially the blood that is shed during circumcision, and a part of the practice that not that many medical associations, doctors, nurses actually really discuss. And it is rather, when you see it, it's in your face, and it's in your face for a reason. I mean, you're not, when it comes to something such as circumcision and going out and playing clothes, you're not going to kind of start any type of way of sticking out. To me, it makes perfect sense in the way that they've go around the country and protest and talk to people, and the conversations that they're having and the eyes that they're opening and the energy and the time that they're putting in to be of service for this horrible horrible practice that has been it's normal. And that's what makes it so hard for me to digest, is something so dark as harming an infant just fresh out of the womb, and it to be completely normal, and for people to protect it and to have difficulty seeing the side. I mean, there's nothing deeper than the mind control. Like, it's the decency of the human soul knows better. And to be in front of people like Harry, and to have met the men that I've met through my journey, I've become a safe haven for a lot of men who have spoken to me about their stories, their trauma, their opinions, and none of them have ever had anybody to talk to. Like, there's really not a space. And I think there's something beautiful, and I'm privileged to be a woman and to offer this feminine um hug, this like energetic way of helping a man feel safe. Safety is the biggest issue for a circumcised man subconsciously, because when he was taken away from mom, he was no longer in a safe space, and he essentially was attacked. So to, not that I'm like trying to be a mother in any capacity, but to offer a loving, genuine, and supportive space to actively listen to these men has been an honor. And I've learned so much, in the relationships that I am building through this process are absolutely divine. There is nothing that comes my way that's not cosmic and that's not meant to be. I mean, usually for everything in life, right? But something about the people that I'm meeting within these intactivists are pure. And it takes a specific human to have the capacity to go down this road and to talk about it. It really does. And the amount of what's the word? I guess flashback, or people don't like it. So it's not easy to have people think that you're crazy over something that it doesn't make sense how you could be considered crazy when you just don't want to harm a newborn. So I am so excited to share this video with Harry. And If you have any suggestions, any questions, please put them down in the comments and I'll get to them. If you have an idea, if you would like to talk to me, if you have been circumcised or if you are intact and you really don't have anyone to speak to, I'm available. Just shoot me a message down in the comment section and I would love to be of service for anyone. So enjoy. Hi, everyone. We are here with Harry Guiremand. My name is Jenna McClelland, and Harry is part of the Bloodstained Men Intactivist group. Today, we will be discussing circumcision and the trauma that is inflicted on about 3,000 babies a day. And this has become such an important topic to me, not only because I feel that this has been a calling of mine to talk about a topic so horrific in its quality, in its nature, that there are not that many, I do not find that there are that many people out there discussing and bringing to light circumcision and the harms that it is bringing young boys on not only a physical level, but this is physical, this is emotional, this is psychological, this is spiritual, and it can deeply impact every living man who is outside just enjoying or breathing and moving all the way up until he decides to create change, to heal and to overcome this systematic propaganda that it is not only impacting him, it is impacting women deeply, it is impacting society, and the United States is the only country in the world that is practicing circumcision on the scale that it is today. So Harry is the spokesman for the Bloodstained Men, and I am so privileged and so honored to have you here, Harry. Thank you. Thank you. Could you tell us a little bit about Bloodstained Men and a little bit about yourself and how you got started?
Yeah, it's a delight to be here with you, Jenna. I'm really privileged to talk to you today. So the Bloodstained Men got started in 2012 when the American Academy of Pediatrics released a new policy statement about circumcision, which people had been waiting for this for years. Had been delayed. Many people thought they were going to finally abandon circumcision and denounce it like all the rest of the medical community had. But instead, they doubled down and came out with a very deceptive policy that said they didn't know the risks, but the benefits outweigh the risks, which is, incoherent to begin with, and misstated or misled it at every juncture to promote circumcision and especially to make sure that funding continued for circumcision. That was their objective, and they stated they wanted to see funding continue. So the American Academy of Pediatrics, people think of it as some kind of academic thing or something, but it's not. It's a trade organization. It exists. If you read their policy statement, their mission is to look out for the interests of pediatricians. So it's just like the American Auto Dealers Association or any other kind of trade association.
Really?
They exist to benefit doctors, and doctors are making money from circumcision. Doctors don't want to be sued for malpractice or medical fraud, which circumcision is.
Right.
And so their slogan was putting patients first, but their mission is putting pediatricians first. And I don't have anything against pediatricians or doctors in general. I just have this corrupt practice needs to be addressed. But we don't have a mission against American medicine per se, just this corrupt practice of genital mutilation of boys. And in 2010, they tried to introduce genital mutilation of girls. The AAP wanted to make a policy statement that would make that acceptable. And the backlash was so strong, they withdrew it immediately. So there's no moral compass there. They'll just try whatever they can to achieve their objectives.
And what do you think their objectives are exactly? If like it's, they can easily be quickly attacked for women and for female for protection.
Right.
However,
Yeah, so women are better organized than men are. So women really, when they tried to make it okay to do FGM in America, the women just shut that down right away.
right.
Unfortunately, men are, it's much harder for men to become activists around this issue because the level of trauma and the level of denial and just the need to be able to function without collapsing emotionally really limits. I mean, it really is hard. There aren't a lot of men that can really get on board. And so fortunately, the women did shut down the FGM proposal of the American Academy of Pediatrics. And I believe that they saw the contradiction that they were allowing mutilation of boys but not girls. And so how does this, so where's the equal protection? So anyway,
Yeah. Are you
that's what
from
happened.
Are you
And
familiar with Patricia Robinette? She wrote the
yes,
rape. Okay, yeah. So
yeah,
and part of the book, she has a friend, and the friend is like, Patricia, I feel like you need to be talking about breast cancer. You need to be talking about something else that's more relevant to women. Why are you talking about circumcision? A man should be doing this, or male genital mutilation is what I prefer to call it. Why are you the one that is discussing this? And she was like, a lot of these men don't want to actually sit and think about the fact that a part of their skin or part of their penis was ripped off and thrown in the trash. So like who else is going to do this while you guys are deciding or trying to even process the fact that you were strapped down against your will? That's already enough for men and their emotional side, and allowing them, and then think about the intimacy that was ripped away from them that first moment when they were abandoned.
right,
So that access to emotional availability has been ripped away, because the most important moment of being a human is being with your mother in the very beginning of life, and then that was taken. So that openness and feeling safe in any environment was stripped away.
right. So
Yeah.
it's, I mean, I don't like to fault cut men who are totally in denial because I totally get it. It's so hard to come to grips with, and I mean, it's just you've got to be patient with them, and some will finally come around. Others just cannot. They're rational about everything else, but if you try to talk about genital mutilation of males, they just cannot
Go there.
talk rationally.
Yeah.
It's just a there's a wall, there's a block there that you just can't get through for lots of men. And it's not their fault. It's not
Right.
their fault. They didn't choose it. So you just have to be patient and accept people can go as far as they can go and no farther. So one thing I really want to credit you for is that the emotional authenticity and the true feeling you bring to the topic. It's just,
Oh,
I listen to your podcast, and that is so important to key in on the emotions. A lot of times it's hard to do that, because, especially for men, that they just they don't want to collapse. They don't want to turn into just a weeping mass of self-pity, or you don't want to do that. It's a bad look. You just so
right.
um but you've brought the real feeling that a lot of that I have but don't want to show, because it just, like I say, I don't want to look like I'm presenting myself as a victim. It's
Right.
just not a good look.
Right. No, for sure. That victimhood consciousness is just definitely something that a lot of people are playing. There's a card that's always being dealt. There's the idea of being a victim to a situation, but then pausing and being like, okay, I was a victim. Now what? It is my responsibility to heal this, so that I'm not constantly replaying this scene, this experience, and projecting it onto people. Like, I have the responsibility of maintaining the beauty of my life. And part of that for me is really accessing the emotion. So I appreciate that so much. I mean, waking up in the middle of the night to the dream where I knew that circumcision was like, okay, this is part of what I'm supposed to do. And then going down the road of looking at the information, like there's like no other rabbit hole that's as dark as circumcision. Like, and here's why, because I've listened to a lot of dark a lot of dark stuff. I'm very curious person. I'm a digger. And what is so horrible to me is the cognitive dissonance and these, it's totally okay. So we're talking about harming a newborn infant and ripping like the most important part of his body, his sexual identity of the divine masculine, to make love and to bond and to have family. And there's people out there like just protecting it. And these doctors getting these godlike type complexes while they're literally just,
Um, it, it, it just, I mean, it's mind boggling.
yeah, it is. It is. And it takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of just breathing with the information and seeing the greater picture. Like people are like, have you really watched a circumcision on video? I'm like, absolutely. Why? I have to.
Right.
It's not easy. I don't like
Right.
this. This is not
Right.
fun for me, but I'm happy to be here. And it is a privilege, like I said earlier, to have been chosen to do this work. And to get credit from someone like you to say something like that, it really, really means a lot. And it's validating the work.
Yeah,
So yeah.
you're adding a lot,
Oh,
and the real emotional truth is so important because people get lost in the facts and the science and blah blah blah, and that's how they get bamboozled into letting someone mutilate their son. But when you come with the emotion, say this is my boy and I'm going to protect him, he has a right to his own body and he's just fine the way he is. And when you come, when the parents come through with an emotional statement that you know leave him the fuck alone, if you don't mind my language,
please.
um, it's it that's the end of that. They're not going to try again. But if they're sort of well, you know, they're kind of confused and wondering what they're stuck in their mind and their thoughts. They're not a good protector. But when they're coming from a strong emotional base, then they can do the job they have to do, which is to protect their son and get him out of the hospital intact. And
Yeah.
that's the big job.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. I want to get a little bit more, pardon me, into your story, and if you don't mind, kind of getting into the emotion.
Right. Yeah, I sort of didn't finish with Bloodstained Men. Anyway, Bloodstained
Oh
Men
yes, yes,
was
I can veer
was
off.
was
Put me back on course. Yes, please.
Brother Kay, who has been an activist since the 80s. Um, and when he, in response to the 2012 AAP policy statement, he started Bloodstained Men just by himself, came out and started protesting. And it just snowballed from there. And uh, I've joined many dozens of the protests. I can't always be on the streets, but they're it's a very real experience to confront people with this reality that they would rather not confront.
Yeah. Um, so you joined in with Brother K in 2010?
2014, I
20,
did my first protest that was in Denver,
uh-huh.
and it was it's very liberating. I mean, the one thing we hear from a lot of the people who join our protests, especially moms and people who just don't normally do protests, they said, I was afraid to come, but I knew I had to, and I really wanted to. And I said, I feel so good to be doing this. And it's like, yes, it's so good to do what you know is right, and it's so liberating to stand up for what you believe. And that's one of the great things about our protests is we see this empowerment of individuals who never would have protested anything in their life, and they just feel like, yes, I can do this. And that's a wonderful, it's you know, it's a contact high. I mean, it just you feel it. Yes, you have the power to do something.
What do you think it's the like the resistance to do to going and being outside and having a protest? What do you think the main resistance energy is for people that prevents them from coming out?
Well, a lot of people have never protested anything in their life. I mean, the
Yeah,
idea of just going out on the street and holding a sign is just foreign to them.
right.
And then just the fact that they might be, be criticized for what they're doing, or they may have to deal with their friends not liking it, and it's just, it takes a little bit of, you have to overcome a little bit of inertia to do that the first time, and it's, once you do, you feel, hey, I can do this, this is good.
Yeah, and then you realize the brain is going to create a lot more negativity and scenarios that don't even exist, and it ends up being a lot more liberating than you think.
Right. And what people say, have asked me, do you ever lose any friends over this? And I said, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it's true. I make new friends, which I think are better than the ones that say goodbye. And it's like, okay, I've upgraded my friends.
exactly. Yeah,
That's life. You
yeah,
just keep
same.
moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, they weren't meant to be there anyway. So
Right. And I you know, like I say, you got to be kind and patient with people. They can only go as far as they can go, and you can't push them any farther than that.
yeah, that's what I learned a couple of years ago during the pandemic. I wanted, because I was healing. I had chronic asthma growing up, and I healed it naturally in 2020. And I was at a state where I wanted to like open everyone's eyeballs and put everything out there and be constant with, hey, wake up, wake up, wake up. But what I realized is you have to, what to your credit, I can't force anyone to do anything. Like, and it's divine timing for them. And that means that I am coming in almost like in violence. And in yoga, we would call that in ahimsa, which is nonviolence. And so it's violent to try to get in the way or hijack someone's own personal journey. And I
Right.
started realizing that that practice was actually just me. It was always like, I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever, it was like it was sticking and it was coming back at me. And I was getting the daggers. I was the one that was hurting. So having that, okay, like I'm still going to stay on my path. I still have a vision. I'm going to still talk about it. But whether this person wants to deal with it or not, it's not my problem. I'm just going to
Right.
continue to move forward. Right. Yeah.
And if you ever feel like there's a certain tinge of meanness or a barb or a sarcasm or mocking, that's when you've gone too far. You're not being gentle to the person anymore. You may be frustrated that they obviously have a mental block, but you you can't be. You got to just go back and sort of come from a position of love and say, well, this is where we are, and we're not going to go any further at this time. So that's
Yeah.
that's that's but I fail at that sometimes, and I just catch myself. Oh, I'm being mean. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I'm just going to back off. This is not the point. Yeah.
It's empowering until you disempower. And as soon as you cross the boundary into the disempowerment, that's when it's like, okay, yeah, to have that rapport. Right.
And when you just say, okay, you have to come through it from your heart, from a position of love and kindness and gentleness. And then it's kind of, even if you're frustrated that you're not getting anywhere with someone, it's like, okay, it's like I can't teach my cat algebra, but I still love my cat. It's fine. This is the way it is. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So since 2014, you've been active. And what was the last protest that you attended?
That was before the pandemic.
Okay.
I have not ventured out much since the pandemic, amazingly, but yeah. So I've not been uh, joining. So 2019 was my last protest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is kind of these types of conversations is what you've chosen to do in
Right.
the
It's
meantime.
it's what I can do right now. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. And yeah, I think that I am just really curious because there's a lot of questions that I have. And when it comes to the Bloodstained Men, I'd heard of you prior to this work. I think I've seen you guys. I don't know where or how, but I have a friend, and as soon as I entered and started talking about circumcision, the amount of men that have been coming to me to be vulnerable and to share, I've been this all of a sudden a safe haven. And it's such a privilege. And a lot of them like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm like sharing so much. I'm like, no, like you are so safe here. And this needs to be discussed. And so one of them in particular is an intact man, and he and I are now like really like we talk probably a couple times out of the week, and I'm keep trying to get him like on a call. And he was talking about the Bloodstained Men, and he mentioned Brother K. It was before I found Brother K's work on Instagram, and now like we're just like back and forth. Um, it- what made Brother K want to like stand out as much? Because it is a rather, because in the beginning of this, Jenna coddle, like you have to be really sensitive. If it's a lot of, mothers who have done this, like you have to think about what they're going through. And then the men who have been circumcised who are trying to like act into this like conformity of I want my son to look like me, right? You have to enter into a very soft space. And so that's how I started. And then up until recently, my last video, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like we're adults. Like so it was that kind of Brother K's thought process of like, this needs to be aggressive in its sense to kind of shock people to want to come up to us. What's the intention about having a dramatic protesting kind of visual representation?
It's absolutely essential because you just fade into the background if you don't have something dramatic. And so the bloodstained suit is effective at getting people's attention. Some local TV stations won't even put it on the air. It's
Right.
so disturbing for them, or they believe it'll be disturbing for their audience that they it won't show that. But they're not all like that. So it just depends on the editorial judgment. But it just shows you that how it is that in your face in a way that some people just can't handle it. But you have to start the conversation by getting attention and then talking to people, and that's the bloodstained suit does that. If we had a better symbol, we'd use it, but this is the best symbol we can find, and it works. It works. It's been we've trademarked it. I mean, even though it's not our original thing, our particular embodiment was trademarked, and that was so that people cannot impersonate us. So we have to own it as a trademark. But
Okay.
actually, anybody can put on a bloodstained suit. We don't have the rights to that at all. It's just our particular trademark,
Mm.
the graphic design. And we didn't invent it. It was invented by Richard Dunker, an activist in the UK, and was picked up by Jonathan Conte, who was a young Intactivist, just a really smart, engaged, wonderful young guy. But the whole thing was too much for him, and he killed himself before he turned 30. So it was really just a gut punch that we lost him. And
was
he's not the
he
only
was in
one.
the UK?
No, he was in San Francisco. He came from Florida originally, but was working in San Francisco as an Intactivist, and he was the leading force behind Bay Area Intactivists for a while. And he was a great guy. Just a real loss.
Yeah, that's just like a heavy moment. My lip is kind of quivering.
Yeah, it's but that's what we're dealing with. It is the
Yeah.
pain is great, and he's not the only man that we know of
Yes.
that ended his life because of the disturbance of circumcision. So we know that it happens, and so like I say, it's always important to be gentle with people, and
Yeah, you
you
never
want them
know
to live.
what
You want them
someone
to
is
live.
going through. Right.
You want them to thrive. You don't
Right.
want to be undoing anybody's life. And so this whole topic is just drenched in sorrow. I mean, unfortunately, it's just the reality.
Do they
It's
have a statistic available of how many suicide victims are circumcised?
no, and it would be great if we did. We would like to see crime statistics include whether the perpetrator is cut or not, because we believe that um, we believe there's a propensity to violence caused by circumcision, but it's they're without the data, you can't prove anything. So, but and we believe that, well, we don't have the data, so we just can't tell you what the numbers are. So it should be.
Janice Barcelo's book, The Dark Side of the Medical Industry. I don't know if you've read that one.
No.
It's a whole nother conversation. She talks about there is some statistics like in Denmark that 50% of the of sexual assault, any sex offenders, rape, all that are in Denmark is of such they have a low number of circumcisions. So, but 50% of the men that are harming others sexually are circumcised.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's what I would expect. It just, as Marilyn Milos, one of the key leaders of the movement, said that circumcision is where sex and violence meet for the first time in someone's life, in a boy's life, in a man's life. And yeah, if you don't like sex and violence being mixed up, then don't do circumcisions.
Is this something that you were able to pick up on, like anger, rage, any type of behavioral patterns growing up? Because I imagine that you are not intact. So when did you pick up on any of the behavior growing up? Have you noticed anything in your lifeline? And what from your own information that you can share on that?
Yeah, I was very angry when I realized I'd been cut, and I was a pretty sheltered boy, and I didn't understand what circumcision was until I was 16. And when I realized what it was and that it had been done to me, I was just really angry.
At
Because,
16.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And I never trusted my parents in the same way again. I just felt like, well, they're not competent to do the job that they're supposed to do. And it just changed my relationship with my parents entirely. I mean, I still loved them, and we still went, came to Christmas and all of that when I grew up, but, and tried to be a good son and all of that. But how could they have allowed this? Later, I found out that when I was born, sometimes they just didn't even ask the parents. So maybe they actually would have protected me, but just didn't have a chance. So I don't know.
Did you ever have a conversation with them
I
about
tried
it?
to, but my mother was so distraught when I brought the subject up that it was clear I couldn't proceed with her, and it's not something my dad wanted to talk about at all. So I never had a meaningful conversation with him about it.
Was your father intact?
I don't believe so. Yeah.
Okay. So what happens is everything goes, you're an infant, so it becomes a repressed emotion, and anything repressed is like it's in your unconscious mind, and accessing that is really challenging. So if you've been circumcised and you repress that memory and it is super back there, you can't experience or feel what the experience was like, or even see a picture. There's no visual representation. So later, whenever you choose to circumcise your son, or you hear about circumcision, it's not that big of a deal, because that ability to empathize has been completely lost, because that memory is completely lost inside of your consciousness. So in what way are you really going to be able to have any form of like heart opening and understanding? Oh, it happened to me. No big deal. Look at me. I'm fine.
Yeah. And it's been sold so slickly. I mean, they've really, if you really wanted to do a study of propaganda in action, just the way circumcision or genital mutilation was sold to a free people, and they were convinced that this is something that they felt compelled to do to their sons. I mean, it really, so many young parents just feel compelled to cut their boy, which is, it's quite crazy. And,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, yeah. It's, when I've been going in and out of like filming, there's moments where I'm completely taken out, because this is such a topic when you can actually open your heart and be available and like really listen, because either, oh my God, this is too much, I'm going to run away from it, or you're here and you're just kind of like, how are we living in this reality? Do you ever look outside and think, where are we? What is this place that we're in? So
Yeah,
yeah,
there's
it's,
times it's like
oh,
we're here.
we're
This is
here.
where we
This is
are.
it. Yeah, this is it.
Whether,
And we have a
whether
job to do. And we have a job to do.
exactly, it's like
Yeah.
once you understand the injustice of it, you're deputized at that point. You need to take action. You've explained that very well. That you knew this was something you had to do at some point, and not everybody. The light doesn't come on for everybody. So when it does come on for, it's a good thing. It's a great thing.
Hmm. Yeah, everyone needs something, some light to follow, some light to serve and to give back. I think that is the way for abundance. And perhaps maybe the more that we can eliminate circumcision, the easier it will be for people to tap into that source, right?
Right. It's like we just take away the violence.
Yeah,
Violence against children should be a no-brainer.
I know. I know.
Okay, we
Yeah.
don't want to do, okay, we can't stop wars. I mean, maybe we can, maybe we can't, but we can stop violence against children. Can we just all agree on that? Even that's hard to do, surprisingly.
Yeah. And there's another segue, could circumcision be leading to men being more open to serving war, right? Our war is still alive because of such a deep, deep wired trauma
I think there is
in the
something
rage.
to that. I think
Yeah.
there is something to that, that when you don't know, when you're angry and you don't know why, then your leaders can pick anybody and say, that's your enemy, that's who you're angry at. And since you don't really know why you're angry or what you're angry about, that anger can be redirected against anyone. And so it makes somebody more exploitable for attacking other people. And I believe that that's part of the picture.
Have you been able to connect any unexpressed, or maybe not unexpressed, like the anger and the frustration of like not knowing where it's coming from prior to you actually realizing what had been done to you? Did you notice anything that was like always kind of eating at you on the inside all the way up until 16?
Well, I was a crier, and I was one of those boys that cried a lot. So I don't know why. I mean, when things would overcome me, I would just
Hmm.
break out into tears. Not, and I was like, I was so ashamed, and because like I want to get through this school year without crying once, but I never did. It's like something would happen, and I would just start
Trigger.
loving. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I don't know if that was related to it or just my particular psychology. I don't know, but it's once I understood what that part of my penis had been destroyed, it was so obvious to me that this is wrong and that I had been wronged and that, that's not something I would have chosen. That there's no way on earth that I would say, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Cut off part of my dick. Yeah. Yeah, I like that idea.
Well,
It
I
just
mean, if you're
didn't
an
happen.
adult, like totally. If you could make that decision later in life, then
Well, but they don't. And there's a good reason why they do, because nobody wants less penis. Nobody wants to lose part of their penis. I mean, the few that do are, very, 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 very slim minority. And
yeah. I had one reach out and say that he circumcised later in life and that he had a lot more sensitivity. And I was like, I didn't know this yet. I didn't have a rebuttal, but I was just like, I'm so glad that you even had that opportunity to make the choice on your own. And I still hope that you can empathize with these newborns at the same time. But obviously, if you're pulling the foreskin, and because like when you're a child, when you're an infant, it's adhered. So the foreskin is adhered to the glans, which is the head of the penis, and it's the same type of tissue underneath your fingernails. So just like your fingernails stuck, that's how like tight it is,
right.
and you can't retract the foreskin until I heard as early as 3, and then up until 6, like fully.
But it can be puberty. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
everybody's
Yeah.
different.
Even later. Exactly. And then, oh, you got a fever. Oh, well, let's circumcise you because you have an infection because of your, your foreskin, which is like so. So
Well,
wild.
the other thing is that the doctors at their baby visits, if the boy's intact, they'll often forcibly retract the foreskin, which can cause an infection. Which then they will say, "Here's our, this, you see, he should have been circumcised. Let's circumcise him."
Exactly. Give us your money.
Well, and let's take his foreskin. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a mania to it that just it doesn't it goes beyond. I mean, money is part of it, but there's a dark compulsion there to mutilate helpless children, and it's really is the dark side, and
it is.
something you can only look at it a little bit before it makes you feel sick inside, but it's there.
Yeah, it's the dark at work, I think for sure. I mean, the most important part of family is the masculine, I think. And you're taking that away. And if you're going to be ripping intimacy and the availability for a woman to like be her divine self, then you've done it.
Yeah,
You've hijacked the family.
yeah. And also, continuing with your point about grown-up circumcision of grown-ups. There was a circumcision advocate who wanted to prevent infant circumcision because he wanted to be able to adopt boys and cut them himself. So this is somebody who is pro-circumcision in general, but he thinks it should be done later so that he could get the gratification from mutilating his adopted son. That was his take on this is what we're up against. I mean,
And when was this happening?
this was just online discussion what he believed. He said yeah, we agree. I agree with you. You shouldn't cut babies because I want to be able to adopt boys and cut them myself. And this is what we're dealing with. This is the sickness. I mean, this is not normal. This guy should never adopt. This guy should never have custody of anybody's kids. But the mania for mutilation is not normal. It's not healthy.
No.
There's a
And you
deep.
must have had some form of trauma yourself. You must have been like a victim of circumcision, or maybe you were molested as a kid.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Right? Because this is such a deep topic because it's almost like every little inch that you kind of look at, you're like, oh my God, there's this undertone. And the undertone is always going to be some form of sexual trauma.
Yeah, some people are just psychopaths. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe they had a trauma. Maybe they're just
Born that
psychopaths from the
way.
get-go. And that's just the way they are. Don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw Brother K posted the other day, and it was it was someone like either a nurse, a new nurse, or an intern residency, and they're recording, and you can't hear this doctor, and he's like, "It's not that big of a deal. We can get this done. Put it through the clamp. You're gonna make the slice. We have a chair right here, just in case you pass out. But the whole goal is not the child; it's you staying vertical." Because that's how many of these nurses and students are passing out.
And when did they get the idea that medicine isn't about taking care of the patient is supposed to come first?
Right.
The patient has no diagnosis. There's nothing wrong with him. He's not really a patient because there's nothing wrong with him. What he is a victim. And how do they violate all of their standards of medical ethics in order to keep this compulsion going? It's shocking.
It's a fetish.
Yeah. There's something wrong. It's like a social mental illness, a mental illness that's shared socially. I a mass delusion, a mass mania. It doesn't. I don't know what the right word is, but there's something just deeply wrong with this compulsion to mutilate kids, boys, sometimes girls. It's just. And the thing is about a baby, the thing that's most striking about a baby is that they're powerless, they're weak, they're helpless, they're defenseless. They're completely dependent on
Us.
care and yeah, for adults. So you take the temptation, I think, I believe it's people they see someone who's powerless and they want to abuse the power they have. And in order, it's an abuse of power. If there wasn't this power imbalance, it wouldn't happen. It doesn't happen in between adults. It happens only when there's this power imbalance, and the medical profession has sort of convinced parents that they have the right, that they have the power to do this, that it's sort of within their rights to cut off part of their boy's penis. And it's an abuse of power. It's just, if you have to look at it, well, yeah, you do have the power, but that doesn't mean you have to abuse it. This person is helpless. That doesn't mean you have to take advantage of them. And yes, it is a relationship with you have all the power and this person has none. Therefore, it's incumbent on you to take care of this person and cherish them and protect them and nurture them until they can grow up and have their own power.
So many thoughts are like going on in my mind about it. Uh, one thing that you're right, like it is our responsibility to take care of these kids. Like who else has them, and why are we having them if we're not even considering their safety in the get-go? Like what, like I don't understand.
Right.
And that quickly, there have been reports of some doctors circumcising infants as they're still exiting the birth canal.
I don't know how that would work, but I
I don't
think
know how that would work
it
either.
seems, I don't know. I wouldn't personally repeat that because it seems like
A little too far out there.
don't know how it would work, but
Yeah.
I did read something about somebody had a plan to be able to circumcise in utero, but I don't know if that's just speculation, but
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll move on from that statement. Either way, one thing that I was looking into was, well, what are they telling the parents? Like what is the protocol? Like, how does this go down? Like, okay, so I have propaganda that I've taken as my own, and I'm going to circumcise my son. What is the step-by-step process at the hospital? So I learned that, I think it was Intact America, who I absolutely love. And they were saying that average of 8 times per pregnancy, a woman gets asked if she's pregnant with a boy, if she's going to circumcise. And so I'm like, okay, so they have all this propaganda. They're getting asked and harassed about it all the time, and almost made as if it is medically necessary when it's not. And then they obviously have to fill something out. So I started looking at the consent forms. So I pulled up all these different obstetrics and like hospitals, and I even printed a couple. They're so sad in the type of information that they're not providing. Like one of them is just it's like a paragraph, and then you sign it, and then they're not even asking like what's going on. And so there's a common denominator on all these sites that I saw. It was parental satisfaction, and that made me so upset, because
yeah,
parental satisfaction on your
again,
baby's penis, on mutilating your child, how satisfied you're going to be over him being cut and held against his
yeah.
will.
So that's again the abuse of power. It's telling them that it's their right to attain satisfaction, to be gratified,
Yeah. How
mutilating the child. But
urine, feces,
yeah,
diaper, this of this exposed cut. And then it's okay, well, you're going to have to come back for a checkup. So this baby has eyes. Like, I know to an adult, and thinking of how memory really works, like there's cellular memory, like we remember things, we have a nervous system, like we are so sharp as children, as babies, because it's our touch sense that has to be the most activated. So we know if we're safe and we're cocooned and we're being taken care of. So to think that parental satisfaction is something that is just so important, and this child is exposed and then witnesses this horrific scene, witnessing it, and then they have to go back to the doctor, and this doctor keeps taking their diaper off, reinforming, kind of putting that trigger back in of, oh, let's just check to see how he's doing. That baby is fussy. That baby can't sleep. That baby is not breastfeeding. That
Yeah.
mom is so unhappy because she doesn't understand what's wrong with her little boy. I mean, I can't tell you how many stories I've heard of mothers who have circumcised, and I've been there, I've seen it. I don't know why it's been 6 months. I can't get my baby to go to sleep.
Yeah. He's been traumatized.
Mm-hmm. Why?
And if you talk to
You left him
doctors,
alone in a crib. What happened when you left him alone when he was born?
yeah. Yeah. And they'll say things like, well, yes, there is some discomfort and they can be fussy afterwards. I mean, this is serious trauma. This is, it causes disassociation. It's absolutely, I mean, think about from the boy's perspective, he's just been born. He doesn't know what's going on. Everything is new. There's light, there's cold for the first time. And the first his mother touches him and it's warm and he feels like he feels her breast against his body, and then he's attacked and hurt. And why? And what's happening? And when is it ever going to stop? And what did I, what happened? What happened to this comfortable, loving mother? And why am I being attacked? And am I going to die? I mean, who knows what's going on in their little brains, but and they dissociate. I mean, it's so overwhelming that they just go into shock
Oh,
and
and here's your baby, and your baby's just sleeping. Like it's not that big of a
right.
deal, right?
It's so disgusting. It's just absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
And that a respected profession can be involved in this. It's just from a first world country. I mean, it would be different if we were in Ghana or somewhere where they do FGM, or you don't have the same expectations. I mean, I don't hope I didn't insult anyone from Ghana, but in poorer areas where the things are not as developed, and you don't have the same expectations. But here we are in the USA, which is supposed to be the leader on so many things, but here we are, as primitive and as backward as we could possibly be.
Yeah. The United States hospitals are the most dangerous of all the industrialized nations to be born. And your risk of the infant mortality risk is extremely high. And they're even up until 1 years old after, because of all the interventions that are being done in scare tactics to harm and to displace. I mean, why do you think mothers are having so much PTSD? It's PTSD. So they're like, oh, it's postpartum depression. It's actually PTSD that they're processing from medical rape.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
I guess I just wonder how they do it in other countries. That the birth must be done completely differently in
Mhm.
other countries. I'm once it becomes a for-profit thing, and then the more shit they do to you, the more money they make. So of course they're going to do as much shit as they can to you.
Yeah.
So that's not a that doesn't bode well for healthy outcomes, in my view.
You're right. So for the Bloodstained Men, when, let's say, for example, I'll set up a scene, you are at protest or you're having a conversation as a spokesman, and you are in rapport with someone who has let's just say they've been circumcised, and all of a sudden they're processing and they realize, have you ever been in front of someone where they had the light bulb go on, and did you have a particular memory or an experience that you could share what that was like?
I do remember once in New York, we were at um, Washington Square, I think, and this a black woman came up and said, "What are you doing? What are you doing? What's wrong with you?" And I said, I kept saying, they lied to you. This is not good for boys, and they lied to you. And this is, I just kept repeating it until she looked at me and she said, "Give me a sign. I want to carry one sign." She stayed with us the rest of the day, the rest of the protest. She stayed with the whole time. The light just suddenly went on. She went from, you people are outrageous, stop doing this, and to, oh, yes, I agree
Yeah.
with you. So that was a good moment. And sometimes people just show up, and other people have done that. They've just show up. They want to know what's going on, and they say, "Yeah, can I have a sign? Can I please join your protest?" So that's a good, that's a good feeling when people are getting it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Uh, I was watching one of the videos, I think you guys, or at least it was Brother K, I don't remember if you were there at Mississippi State University. And a lot of the students that were coming up asking questions. And then one student started, he had an acoustic guitar with him and he started playing Imagine, John Lennon. And I just started.
Yeah, that was magic. That was just one of the best protests ever.
It really it was. Looking through all of the content and everything that you've put out there, that was my favorite video. And seeing some of these people, and even a bunch of these college men were just like, yeah, I know it's wrong. I was circumcised, and this should have been our choice. And we know that this is
Yeah.
incredibly harming, and we wish that this didn't happen to us. So when you are in those types of situations and someone, maybe they have a light bulb come on and they want to stay, they want to talk more, or but they have to go home. So with that realization of something as big as recognizing that you were strapped down against your will and circumcised, what do you have any resources for people? Like, what do you tell them to do to continue to process, to integrate such a deep traumatic experience?
I think I can't think of approach. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that we have for dealing with the psychological trauma like that, which we should have. Oftentimes we talk to cut men about foreskin restoration.
Mm-hmm.
If it's clear they're disturbed and they want to talk more, and that some men have had very good results with foreskin restoration, and that it doesn't bring back the lost nerves, but it does
Right.
bring back some of the coverage of skin coverage. And but it's it's a band-aid. I mean, it's really does it doesn't it's foreskin restoration is good as far as it goes, but the thing that I'm more concerned with is preventing it from happening in the first place. So
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
emphasize foreskin restoration because I've heard at baby fairs some parents say, when they hear about foreskin restoration, they say, well, oh well, if he doesn't like it, he can fix it later. I mean, the arrogance and the lack of respect for another human being, which I think is the other main problem that infants have, is that people don't yet see them as a different human being. They think of them as property, or that they're an extension of themselves. In some sense, they are, but it's a new life that will go in its own direction and will outlive you if all goes well. And uh, you've got to respect this is a new human being with their own story, their own life, and their own decisions to make about their own body. And it's they're not property that you can just slice up because you want to.
Right. Yeah. I don't know how I mean, obviously you're having a child and you co-created and conceived, but there's this relationship of, hey, I take care of you. I don't own you. And I think even in terms like, and with my family, I've noticed a lot of that. It's, well, I'm your mother and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, no, I'm also like my own individual coming in as a soul. I chose you to be my mother, but this is my life. And these are going to be my choices.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes parents have to lay down the law for the kid's own good. They have to say, well, this is the way it's going to be because I'm the parent. So that's
Right.
that. And when you
Right.
grow up, you can make your own decisions. That's fine.
Yeah.
But an irrevocable amputation is not one of those things.
Right.
And
Right.
the other thing I like to tell parents is that you're not raising a child, you're raising an adult. You want this child in your care to grow up to be a healthy, complete, intact, loving, caring, capable adult. And stop thinking of him as a child, think of him as a future adult.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely. Um, the types of therapies that I have come across that can be really helpful. I know there's foreskin restoration, but I think there's like a space. It's finding out and then whoa, and then okay, what am I going to do about it? And that whoa space, for anyone who's listening, like EFT, EMDR, and then just deep meditation work. I've done and uncovered some beautiful things from EFT, and I actually meant to bring this up earlier, and it's really intense, and it kind of goes in with the doctor, and then the sexual trauma component. So I've done a lot of womb work, and so women kind of go through their own trauma with the negative projections of any feminine process. It's embarrassing, it's an inconvenience. So I definitely have like my own stuff, and so I, rather than being victim, I've done the work. And so I started using I don't know if you're familiar with like a yoni jade egg. And in the womb and in the tissue, just very much like your genitalia are is too, we can store all of the trauma, and usually it'll stay within the body part and the tissue. And so that's why like a lot of women are low libido, or they don't lubricate, and they're numb essentially. So I started doing the egg work, and I had already had the dream. I already knew I was going to be talking about circumcision. I didn't know how. I didn't have the voice yet. I knew that I were some certain things that I needed to do on my own before I could like enter into being the woman who can like step up and talk. And I was using the egg, and all of a sudden I accessed so much of my consciousness. Like my lifeline just all of a sudden appeared. And so day to day, randomly, I'd be maybe like washing a dish, and then I would get a memory and be like, oh my God, like whether it was traumatic, whether it was neutral, I was still starting to access a bunch of stuff. And so I was listening to a podcast. It was Brendan Marotta and Kim Anami, and they did the circumcision, and it was really amazing. And that's how I found out about the Patricia Robinette's book. And at the back of it, it's really interesting because it seems kind of different than what you would read in the book, which is her, because she was circumcised at 5. And she's like, what is this thing about doctors? Why are all these children, as they're growing up, going into closets, going behind bushes and playing doctor? Like, how are they getting the memo? How is this such a thing? So it's because like all of these children are acting out the discomfort that they have from going to the pediatrician, and from circumcision, and from being in these situations where their pants are dropped. So that day I read the book, I did a bunch of EFT, and I had used the yoni egg, and I was laying in bed trying to go to bed, and all of a sudden I saw an image of my pediatrician.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh Lord, like where did this memory come from? And then I remembered all of a sudden him pulling my panties down, laying me down on a table, and splitting my labia apart,
Hmm.
my vulva apart, to look at me. And so my first
Is that
reaction
normal?
was,
Is that what
is
they
no,
normally
it's
do?
normal. This is
Okay.
totally normal. So my first reaction was, because I'm the youngest of 3, I have 2 older sisters, and we're super back to back, like literally one after the other. I was like, what do you guys remember about doctor signs? Like, they're like, oh, I remember getting vaccines. That's another conversation. I remember getting vaccines. I just remember you being pissed. I was like, yeah, I was always really pissed about that. But that's it. And I said, guys, I had a memory that he pulled my panties down. And like, ever since then, I remember the shame. I remember going home, and I'm like 2 to 3 years old.
Hmm.
I called my mother, and they're like, oh yeah, because they both have kids. It's protocol and normal. So my mom validated it. I'm not a victim to it. I'm healing it. But it's like, I have vulva. You have a penis. I clearly have seen a penis because I had sex. Therefore, I have a child. So why are we allowing doctors to look at these children? Why are
Yeah,
we?
I never heard of that before, but I mean it totally makes sense, but I don't know what their justification is for doing that. And I wonder if they do that in other countries, or whether it's only in America.
It's to make sure they're growing properly. or if like the balls have dropped. And then, another friend of mine, I was like, also with all the physicals too. I know it's to check for cancer, for testicular, but for 5-year-olds,
Yeah,
testicular cancer.
yeah. I mean, to me, that's why playing doctor was a thing, is because it was the only person you would take your clothes off, and only adult you would take your clothes off in front of. So I think it was sort of, that was the novelty of something that's, not done. So playing doctor was just repeating that. That's the way I recall it. But
Yeah.
there may be a lot more to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah. Yeah. Cause to me, it was, it was a stranger. It was an older man. I think there's just it's just, there's even these small, minute things that we don't consider that are normal day-to-day practices because our children aren't going to remember. So what's the big deal?
yeah, it's, yeah, I just wonder whether if that would seem abnormal in, say, France or
Right.
Denmark, or whether
Yeah.
that's everybody does it. I
That's a great question.
out of my
Yeah.
range of knowledge
Right.
completely.
Yeah. That was kind of just my closest experience to understanding and thinking about like all of the different visits and things that have impacted men all this time and all through their life. And to not even know that that scar that they have is they think that that's normal. That's how the penis, the shaft looks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's with about half the boys growing up intact now, that they've got to be comparing each other. When I, at my age, I think there was only one or two intact boys in my grammar school, or in my class in grammar school, and so they would just seem weird. I didn't know what was going on with them, but I wasn't going to say anything rude. But they seemed strange to me. But I didn't realize I was the one that was abnormal.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I know a lot of the intact men are hiding it. They were like very embarrassed by it. So they have their own now
Yeah,
experience on, they're perfectly healthy and natural, just the way that God designed them to be.
yeah. One
And
intact activist told me that circumcision hurts everyone. That
yes, absolutely. Yeah,
he felt hurt by seeing his friends damaged, realizing they were damaged, and he just said in the most heartfelt way that it hurts all of us.
right. Yeah, yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for this conversation and for your time and energy. I know I've told you that like multiple times.
It's
I
really been a joy to talk with you.
Thank you. I
Jenna.
know I'm gonna
Just,
be. I hope to get better at this
you're
because
good. You're good. You don't have anything to apologize for.
thank
You're doing a
thank
good job.
thank
And it's,
you.
you're pulling out, like I said, there's that emotional, genuine, emotional authenticity that you bring to it that is really important. A lot of people want to always approach the issue from as an intellectual exercise, and it's really important to bring the emotions out of your guests, which you've done today, and I know you have the capability to do. So I think you're going to really excel at this.
Thank you. Yeah, I was talking, I was like, this isn't something like, obviously I want an audience, and this isn't like an audience like for me. This is an audience for like these babies. Like
Right.
humanity deserves an audience for circumcision. And I want to continue to say that how important this issue is. And I mean, we could just continue to segue and go down to, I mean, I had all these questions we didn't really get to
Well,
because
we can do it another time if you
yeah,
ever get a chance to.
absolutely. I would absolutely love that. Brother Kay invited me to do some of the 2025 protests. And so I've been talking to him about like if I can make that happen. You
Oh,
guys,
that would be wonderful.
yeah,
You'd be
everyone's gonna be in Houston in the next couple of weeks, and I'm in
yeah,
Austin. So like I could just drive up. I can't stay the whole time. So I'm like, maybe I'll just go for
yeah.
a
Even
day
if you
and say
just stop by,
hi.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, there's a lot of energy that it's contagious and it feels good, and you just, yeah, I love being around Intactivists because to me those are my people. Those are the
Yeah.
people that speak to me. Very few people really speak to me in the way that Intactivists do. I just feel like I'm really with the people I cherish
Yeah.
The other thing
Yeah.
I want to say is that when you're with YouTube, as far as YouTube, you may not get a big audience right away. You you may reach 3 people that you make a huge difference in their life, or they may become activists and have a huge follow-on effect. You don't know. So just keep doing it, even if you don't get huge viewership from YouTube. Just keep doing it because the people you reach, you may be transformative in their life, and
Oh,
so that's important. Just
totally.
don't get discouraged if your numbers aren't
Thank you.
staggering. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, to now have people, I've had pregnant friends, hey, I want to talk to you because the doctor's asking me about circumcision. So I know I've definitely made a mark. And like, if I could just be done tomorrow, at least like I know I did something, right? So
Right.
I
Every
agree
boy
with you.
you protect is, it's a badge of honor.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Harry. It was
Okay.
so good to meet you. Everybody, thank you for listening.